Hey guys, what's going on and welcome to a brand new video. If you're new to the channel, please make sure you like, comment and subscribe if you're new, and let's get into it. So we're going to be talking about Game Week 17 and then getting in. This is of course my Premier League Game Week 18 predictions, but let's get into Game Week 17 and how I did go. So this is the scores on screen that I predicted. So of course we start off with Chelsea versus Newcastle, where I said Chelsea would win the game 2-1 and it ended up being a 2-2 draw. So it ended up being a 2-2 draw, so I was wrong with that. The next game was Bournemouth versus Burnley. The game I predicted a 2-0 Bournemouth win, thinking, oh yeah, they'll win comfortably against Burnley. It ended up being a 1-1 draw, you know. It ended up being a 1-1 draw. I couldn't believe it. A late goal for Burnley to get them a point, and probably, maybe that might be the shock of the round, to be honest. The next game was Brighton versus Sunderland. I said it would be a 2-2 draw. It ended up being a 0-0 draw, so at least I got something right. I got something right, not the score, but I got the result right. It would be a draw. The next game was Man City versus West Ham. I mean, this is the easiest game to predict. I got the score completely right as well. I said 3-0 Man City, and the correct score was 3-0 Manchester City. The next game was Wolves versus Brentford. Going into this game, I said Wolves would actually score in this game. Maybe I gave them too much confidence that they'd actually score. They ended up losing 2-0 in a game I predicted 3-1 to Brentford. The next game was, of course, Liverpool versus Spurs, where I got the correct score. As I said, Liverpool would beat Spurs 2-1, and that ended up being the correct score, as Liverpool did beat Spurs 2-1. The next game was Everton versus Arsenal. I predicted a 2-1 Arsenal win. It ended up being a 1-0 Arsenal win. And the next game, of course, was Leeds United versus Crystal Palace. I did not expect this. You know, as a Leeds fan, did not expect this. Leeds United ended up winning 4-1. A 4-1 absolute battering, where I predicted a 2-2 draw, saying, yeah, a point would be good against the best away team in the Premier League at that time. Of course, now it is Arsenal. But at the time, Palace were the best team on form and the best team this season away from home, and we managed to absolutely smash them 4-1. The next game was Aston Villa's Manchester United. I said it would be an Aston Villa 3-1 win. It ended up being an Aston Villa 2-1 win. And the final game of the game week was, of course, Fulham versus Forest, where I predicted a 1-1 draw, and it ended up being a 1-0 win to Fulham. Now, welcome to Premier League Game Week 18 Premier League predictions. I said Premier League a lot, but let's get into it and predict the Premier League for Game Week 18. So the first game of the game week we've got is Manchester United, and they'll be versing Newcastle at Old Trafford. So going into this game, what do I expect? I think Newcastle win this game. I think Newcastle are going to go into this game. I know they drew their game against Chelsea in a game where they were 2-0 up, but I think they're going to have too much for Manchester United. Voltemata, of course, scored both goals for Newcastle. Scored both goals against Chelsea, and yeah, I think he's going to score again in this game, and I think Newcastle are going to have too much for Manchester United, and they're going to win this game 2-0. The next game we got is Nottingham Forest, and they're going to be versing Manchester City. Going into this game, what do I think? Well, I think City are going to win this game, and this keeps Forest in a big relegation battle, because at the moment they are one spot off relegation, and I think Man City are going to win this game, which will keep them in that exact same spot, and I think Man City are going to win this game against Forest 3-1. So I'm going to go with a 3-1 Manchester City win, because I think they're going to have way too much for Forest. And even though Forest are at home, they don't have a fortress like they did last season. And yeah, they're going to get absolutely battered, in my opinion. I think Man City are going to have too much for them. Next game we got, it's Arsenal versus Brighton. Now, going into this game, I do think Arsenal are going to win this game, but I do think it's going to be a very tight game. I think Brighton are always a difficult team to come against at the Emirates, though. So I think Arsenal are going to win this game since they are at home. I think it'll be a close game. So I am going to go for an Arsenal win, but I am only going for an Arsenal 2-1 win. So I think Arsenal will win by a goal, and it'll be a 2-1 victory to Arsenal, which will keep them on top of the league, keep them in first in this title race. Next game we got is Brentford versus Bournemouth, and I actually predict this game is going to be a draw. I think it will end up being a draw. I'm going to say a 2-2 draw between Brentford and Bournemouth. It just feels like one of those games where there'll be a couple of goals, but they'll share the points in the end, and it'll be a 2-2 draw. Next game we got is Burnley versus Everton. I'm going to predict Everton to win this game 2-0. I think Everton are going to have way too much for Burnley. They were in a tight game and only lost 1-0 to Arsenal, and I think Burnley, even though they did get a point in their last game against Bournemouth, I just don't see them getting any points against Everton, because I think Everton have been great this season, and I think they're going to get back to winning ways, especially after losing only narrowly to Arsenal, and they're going to win it comfortably against Burnley. I think they're going to win it 2-0. So the next game we got is Liverpool versus Wolves. I mean, you could predict 5, 6, 7, and you could probably honestly say, yeah, you could see that happening, but I am only going to go for 3. I'm going to go for a 3-0 Liverpool win, and this keeps Wolves on 2 points and keeps them without a win for the entire season, and I think this is what we expect. I think Liverpool are going to win this game, even though Liverpool haven't been great this season and they've been in and out of form. They're going to have way too much for Wolves. This is going to be a walk in the park for them and a comfortable 3-0 win for Liverpool, because I don't think Wolves are even going to score goals now. Like, they just can't score either. And yeah, I think Liverpool are just going to absolutely batter them. 3-0 I'll go with, and I wouldn't be surprised if it is more. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if they lose by 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8. Maybe you get a 9-0. Would not be surprised if it did happen. But yeah, I think Liverpool are going to have way too much for Wolves, and it's going to keep them, as I said, on 2 points. The next game we got is West Ham versus Fulham. Going into this game, this is one of those games which is kind of a bit difficult to predict. West Ham being at home against Fulham. Both teams, you know, Fulham just winning against Nottingham Forest, of course. It's one of those where Fulham are starting to push away from being in a relegation battle. I never considered them in a relegation battle, but right now they're kind of saying, yeah, we're not, and we're pushing further up to mid-table to finish around mid-table this season. West Ham, of course, are in the relegation zone and in a big relegation battle where they're going to need to get some results soon. And Fulham is a game, like, it is a game where I can see West Ham getting a result from. Like, you can see West Ham getting a result from Fulham. Like, it wouldn't be surprising. But I do think Fulham are going to have too much from them, and they are going to win this game. I think it's going to be a 2-1 Fulham win. The next game that we got is Chelsea versus Aston Villa. Title charge, Aston Villa, because yet again, they did beat Man United. Chelsea, of course, came back from 2-0 down, so they're going to have some confidence going into this game. But I think Villa, they're going to continue their, 10 wins in a row at the moment? They're going to make it 11 wins in a row. They're going to be pushing for that title. You're in a title race, Villa. And honestly, I would love them to win the league. I would love someone that's not one of the big six to win the league again. Like, I actually would love it. And I want Villa to continue playing the way they are and actually go and win the league, to be honest. I would love it. I mean, they're performing so well. They're up there. Imagine what could have happened if Villa didn't start the season so poor. If you guys remember, Villa did start the season pretty poor. Imagine they started the season like they're playing now, or they just started their season just a little bit better, which realistically, looking at their team last season, how they performed last time, you'd probably expect them to start the season better than what they did. They didn't. They started the season pretty poor, but now they're on a 10-game winning streak. Imagine if that start of the season just went a little bit better. They could be top of the league right now, but I do think they're going to have too much for Chelsea, Aston Villa, and they are going to win this game. I'm going to go with a 2-1 Aston Villa win as they continue their surge in this title charge. Go on, Villa. Go win the league. The next game we got is two promoted teams against each other. We got Sunderland versus Leeds United, of course, AFCON, so Sunderland are going to be losing a couple of their players. Stadium Alight, it's a very difficult place to go. And going into this game, I'm worried as a Leeds fan, you know, even though our form has been brilliant. You know, our form has been brilliant over the last couple of games since we've changed formation, you know, since the Chelsea game. Not lost a single game in our last 4, you know, beating Chelsea, drawing with Liverpool, drawing with Brentford, beating the best away team in Crystal Palace. You know, looking at those performances, you should be like, oh yeah, we can win this game. We should win this game based off recent performances. We do have the same record as Sunderland in the last 5. I'm pretty sure we both have the exact same record. It's something like that. It's like we're both like performing well at the moment. Sunderland, difficult team, and that is why I'm going with a 1-1 draw. I think this game might end in a draw, but I could see Sunderland like nicking a like a 2-1 win right at the end. You know, it's one of those games where I could see them stealing it at the end, or one of us winning. I see it more as a Sunderland winning it at the end because the atmosphere, Stadium Alight, and I could see them getting a late winner, but I am going to say a 1-1 draw. A very competitive game, but it's going to end 1-1. And the final game we got in this game week is Crystal Palace versus Spurs. Now, Spurs, of course, off the back of losing to Liverpool, haven't been playing well, and I think Crystal Palace are going to get back to winning ways after getting battered by Leeds United. I think they're going to get back to winning ways, and I think they're going to win this game. I think it's going to be a 2-0 Crystal Palace win. I just think Spurs at the moment, Spurs are performing bad, and if they're not careful in the next couple of games, they could be in a relegation battle and back where they were last season. It is a possibility. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments down below about my score predictions. They're on screen right now. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Let me know your score predictions. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you're new, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.